Welcome to Credentialing Chronicles, where we spill the doctor's tea, honey, hotter than your morning coffee.
And we're spilling it across America, state by state and license by license.
Ooh, I'm Shannon, and honey, she is Nylene, and we are just a couple of sassy credentialing pros with front row seats to all this crazy chaos.
Yes, from coast to coast, fraud scandals to hospital drama they hoped you'd never find.
Yeah, but we find it, girl. So grab your coffee, your compliance checklist, and what, Nylene?
And let's get into it.
Hell yeah. Well, Nylene and Shannon sitting there talking about you while you pull up a chair. They holding everybody accountable.
Welcome back, everyone. Listen, so Shannon, did you know that there's a direct financial impact of a doctor getting a board action on their license that can actually turn into a six-figure problem?
What? I did not know that. Tell me about it. What exactly does that even mean, Nylene? Where would we even go to find that information?
That means that an MSP can save a doctor and an organization millions of dollars. So I think we need to break this down in our episode. Can you tell us, we have a very important, very fun guest today, Shannon, and you actually made the connection. So why don't you introduce us?
So our exciting guest today is somebody that is really going to be able to help steer providers, CEOs, MSPs in a way that is going to help them figure out, what do we do when a provider, somebody that's touching a patient, is having a problem. And I just have to tell y'all about her, because I see her all the time at all these conferences everywhere. She had just had a new baby and I had just had a new baby. And so we bonded over the babies, but this is none other than Amanda Olagon. She is the Director of Communications at PBI Education, a medical education provider that really, you all, focuses on the behavioral-based aspect for courses for clinicians. So, she really doesn't get into it about who, what, where, why. Once the organization or board tells them exactly what they need to do, they pick it up and help the provider from there. So I would like y'all to introduce you to Amanda Olagon.
Thank you, Shannon. I'm excited to be here. So I've been with PBI Education almost 7 years now, and it's absolutely been a whirlwind of learning about this interesting, exciting field of, you don't realize providers and doctors are held accountable as a patient. You don't know how medical boards work, or as a patient, before I started working with PBI, I didn't know what credentialing was for physicians. And so I've gotten to learn a lot with PBI and in this role, and learning about how doctors are really susceptible to a lot. And they're treating us and putting us first a lot of times before their families and everything else going on in their lives. And what we get to do at PBI is be on the front line of helping those doctors sometimes when they're in their darkest hour.
I love that. Yes, I love that. And it's so timely, because today is Doctor's Day that we're recording. And even though this episode is going to publish a little bit after, but today is Doctor's Day. So we want to say thank you to our doctors today, and really thank you for sacrificing your lives, like you said, to really helping us and our families stay safe and all of the things. So we want to thank you for coming on the show, and we're going to get into how we as MSPs and as leaders in the healthcare field can really help a doctor out, because we're not always here to say, all the crazy stuff, even though we love to spill some tea.
Some people need some help. Some people just need a little redirection.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So when we're talking about the things that you see, who usually calls you, Amanda? Would it be a doctor? Would it be a hospital? Would it be a MSP? What happens when you get the first call?
So it can range. It can be a medical board or regulator. It can be a hospital calling a CMO, an MSP. Even sometimes private organizations, private clinics will call. There's something going on with the doctor where their conduct isn't acceptable. They've either had communications issues, potentially boundaries issues, and what the organization knows is things need to change. And so they call us to say, how do we get this doctor on the right track? How do we make sure whatever behaviors happened is corrected and they go in the right direction?
So you're talking about restorative versus punitive.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
It's so interesting because there's really always both in a way. There's like we talked about at the intro that there's financial implications of boards taking action, and there's consequences that happen even when a hospital makes a decision to discipline someone and take serious action. But they're focused on restoring the person. And even though there's consequences, it's not there to punish them. It's not punitive. It's really there to help them move forward as a safer professional.
And so have you seen, I guess, a great deal of providers, not just doctors? PBI Education helps and has courses for anybody that touches a patient. So have you seen a lot of restorative, providers, like where they've come in, they've been a mess, PBI took them through a course, and now they're just functioning amazingly?
It's incredible to see the difference. So we get to interact one-on-one with these providers. And when they come to us, a lot of times they haven't told anyone else what's going on. We're the first people they talk to because they're scared to tell their wife. It's really, there's a lot of stigma around being disciplined or having this type of situation happen. They haven't told colleagues. So we'll get on the phone, they'll open up, and sometimes they're angry coming to a course. Sometimes they don't want to see us. But typically by the end, we're hearing things said of, I wish I'd learned this in medical school. I wish I had taken this course 10 years ago. And the most transformative is when we can see them coming to us and they're upset and they're frustrated, and our teams really approaches everything with empathy of being understanding of that, and how friendly they are after their course and how their demeanor changes and how thankful they are. Like it feels like magic. It feels like magic. You're like, is this the same provider I was talking to 3 weeks ago? Because they were yelling at me.
That's actually really amazing. So we know that they're competent, right? But at what point do they identify that, hey, I'm a doctor in trouble. I'm a nurse practitioner in trouble. You said you guys even do veterinarians, right? How do we identify that, or how do they identify themselves? What are some of the scenarios that you see?
Yeah, we have a belief that every professional has a propensity to have a violation, is what we call it. So it could happen to anyone. And so being proactive and being aware of what's going on in your life and what could cause these things to happen is so important. So we see a lot of times someone's going through something very serious in their personal life. There might be divorce going on, stresses at home. There could be financial implications, family members going on, but usually there's some sort of catalyst that results in them making a change to their behavior that's not appropriate. So this isn't typically, you guys talk a lot about providers on the show that do really sensational things and are really what I would refer to as bad actors. Those aren't the people coming to our courses. These are really well-meaning providers who had something stressful happen in their life or don't know how to communicate and just need the tools to learn how to communicate better.
Yeah, so I wanted to touch on that because I remember when we had first talked, Amanda, I need you to spill the tea on like your ranking system, because like you said, there are people that are just going through something. It's situational. It's in their life. And then there's people, like you said, like that actually are having patterns of things like this happening, and you have different categories for them. Do you feel comfortable kind of disclosing them? Because wait till y'all hear these categories.
Yes. So we call them, they're typologies. They're based on some research by, I believe it's Jennifer Schneider and I want to say Richard Irons, if I remember that correctly. And so it really helps, and it helps the physician or provider understand what caused their situation. So we have one that we call the naive royal. So that's someone that just doesn't know what they don't know. So they're coming in and they're new and fresh to the situation. And so they're just really unsure of what's going on and what the rules are. And so they were naive. They did too much to help a patient and provide more, and they ended up crossing a boundary with that patient. Another one we see a lot is the wounded healer. And I think this is probably, I would say, the most common one we see in courses, where they're coming to the course and everyone else comes first. The patients come first. Their family comes first. They haven't been to the doctor in 10 years. They haven't been on a vacation. They aren't eating. They have health issues, but everything else comes first. Medical records come first. And what we really try to help them do in the course is fix the priorities. Like, you can't pour into someone else and help someone else if you're running on empty. So I think that's really important.
That's really a good place where us as the MSPs who are really interacting with these physicians at a very bare minimum during the reappointment cycle or during the next OPPE to detect those early warning signs and not not necessarily be looking towards disciplining, but actually helping them and bring it to their attention as what do they need outside of just, you didn't do your medical records on time.
Exactly. And I want to give you guys there's several categories, but the other one that really sticks out is we call dark magician. And this is the doctor deaths out there. The people who have malicious intent. They are doing this selfishly for themselves. People could call them sociopaths. Those people often, if not always, cannot be remediated. Coming to a course is not going to fix them or change their behavior. And this is probably a really good time to mention our courses are pass-fail. Coming to a course just doesn't mean you're fine to go on. We're analyzing, is this person, are they putting a plan together that demonstrates they're safe to go back into practice? Do we have concerns about that come up? Do they share something in the course that's inappropriate? And there's times during the course where if they share certain things, it's reportable to the medical board. And that's something we have to share. If we think they're a danger to themselves or another, and that's typical type of reporting. You want to make sure someone's not a danger to patient safety.
And what is that one called again?
The dark magician is what we refer to them as.
Natalie, we got to keep it right where we're talking about them.
Girl, I want to write that down. I like that one.
I know. We're going to be like, this is the dark magician,
I may know a couple too.
Now you know something. Refer them to PBI Education, please, Nylene.
Oh. Oops.
It's a referral.
They might need to go. So if they're in that category, they might need to go to the medical board. They might be beyond our help.
That's so funny.
But most doctors aren't. Most doctors mean well.
Yeah, I really wanted to go back to the wounded hero you were talking about. So let's say how do you find out the personality? So the person comes to you, or do they get like an initial personality assessment?
So when they come to a course, they do some pre-course assignments. And I would venture to say our faculty members, when they review those, can typically tell what typology they fall into. But this is part of the course content. I want to say in almost all of our courses, if not all of them, where they talk through and say, which of these do you identify with? Because there's certain risk factors and vulnerabilities for each of these types. And so that's going to help them. Our courses are all about like self-discovery. Why did you have this violation? What caused it? And how can you make sure that never happens again?
So what's the level of professional that does the intake? Is it another physician? Is it a licensed counselor? What's the person that does that intake?
We have an administrative team who are very well versed in professionalism issues and experts on what courses someone should go to. So a lot of times myself and other team members are really working with the organizations to determine what course is right for this person. They submit some pre-course assignments, submit those through. Our faculty members step in at that point and review their pre-course. And our faculties range from JDs to MDs, chiropractors. A lot of them have been in practice before, and they have experience on the regulatory side. So we have a lot of people who've worked for boards before and understand that process, because part of the resource we give to the physicians is helping guide them through the situation. How do they move forward? What do they need to put in place? How do they create accountability in their life to help them practice safely? And so giving them those tools. So we do a lot of vetting of our faculty members, and they're all listed on our website with their absolute amazing credentials. So I encourage anyone to go look and see.
Yeah, no, thank you. We appreciate that. So I guess how do we go from competent provider to provider in trouble? And then I guess like vice versa, right? Provider in trouble back to competent, is there specific steps? How does PBI determine that?
So I love what I hear when you say that is process. This is not something that changes overnight. Teaching anything, when you're learning any skill, you don't become an expert at it overnight. So we're really providing them the tools to analyze what went wrong, what happened in this situation, what caused the situation to happen at this time. And we talk through with them and help them create what's called a personalized protection plan. They come up with a bullet point plan that outlines in my organizational life, in my professional life, and in my personal life, what am I changing? And this is a living document that they update all the time. Part of their protection plan is to review your protection plan every month or every week, whatever they need to do. That's part of what we tell them to put in their plans. And so they have an actionable plan of what they're doing to get back to that place, to get back to safe practice. And that can say, maybe I need to talk to my organization about setting up a system for how we can get medical records done on time. Maybe I want to make sure I have a chaperone when I'm doing sensitive exams, and I need to talk to my organization about that because I want to make sure a patient never accuses me of doing this again. Because there's times when doctors get accused of things and it's he said, she said, and it's no one knows who to believe or who to trust. So
they're going to come to you after the board action, during the board action, or before the board action.
Yes. So really at any point. So yeah, you guys could notice that this doctor had an outburst in the operating room. We talked to them and you know what? They're still having issues communicating with the team. We're going to send them to a communications course. The board's not involved. It's not a report to the National Practitioner Data Bank. There's nothing happening to their hospital credentials, but we're going to give them an extra resource of sending them to this course.
Except if they don't comply, because if that was part of their performance improvement plan and MEC voted that they had to go to PBI and they did not comply, then any action that comes after that.
Exactly. And it's really, it could start at that level with the hospitals and organizations. Sometimes it's during an investigation. So they might get an administrative healthcare attorney who says, hey, let's go to this course proactively. Or the attorney will know in my state, this is what the board usually requires for this situation. Let's demonstrate to the board that you're making a change, that you know you're taking responsibility for this.
So you are national. You cover all 50 states.
And Canada.
And Canada.
Yeah.
She's in the Americas, okay?
All of the Americas.
I'll give them a shout out. They have some different terminology. They have colleges instead of boards. They have the college that provides licenses and regulates their physicians in Canada. So some different terminology, but still going through the same process that we're going through down here.
Because Shannon, right? We've seen all of this stuff happen in every single state. Now that we're traveling across America, what do we see with different doctors throughout every state?
I mean, yeah, we're seeing the fraud. We're seeing it all, right? The biggest thing is the provider shortage. The provider shortages, which could cause a lot of these burnout issues, I think, Nylene.
Absolutely, Shannon. And that's just it, because we want to make sure that not all discipline means that it's specifically an unsafe physician, right? And so when we see a board action, Amanda, what are some of the things that we should look at as an MSP or even a doctor when you go from one state to another and you had a board action on your license? What should I do as a doctor, right, when I move to another state? And what does an MSP need to know or should look at that board action?
I think what's most important is to recognize that every single state is different. And that's probably what makes it so hard to interpret when you're looking at these. Whether is it a revocation? Was their license suspended? Are there restrictions on it? A great example of this is in California. It's called revocation. The order will say revocation, but they say revocation is stayed.
What does that mean?
Yeah. So it means that it's revoked, but they're giving you a chance. As long as you meet all these requirements, you can keep your license and you keep practicing. So my understanding of this is the reason is so that if you don't meet what's in the order and what's required of you, the board can immediately revoke your license. So they can it's already revoked. They don't have to get permission to do that. They can just immediately revoke. So, but it's the language like that is particular in different states. I know you guys have talked to this before about what information you can find in each state is also very difficult. So interpreting that and being able to see what does something mean in each state and what does it mean based on what that board does. So how serious they're taking it, what they're requiring. I would say it's important to look at when it happened. You're going to see records that are there 20, 30 years ago. They'll still be on those records. So has the doctor made a change since then? Have there been repeat orders coming out, repeated discipline? Are you seeing trends of discipline happening in every single state of there's discipline, they pick up and move to a new state, it happens again, they pick up and move to a new state. So looking for those trends and behavior, I think is really important.
Yeah, definitely. And disclosing them, no matter what state you go to, disclosing them, writing it out. So that way it's easier for the MSP, easier for the committee. and being confident in that and not having to say, well, we found this on the NPDB, but you said all no, because those things create, more kind of blurry. They're not transparent.
And on the other side of that, does that mean that transparency should automatically equal a career destruction? Or the fact that they had a board action, we can assume, or at least try to say, hey, what did you do to rectify? Because usually on those board actions, it tells you these are the courses they had to take, or these are the restrictions that they have. This is how much money they had to pay.
On the orders.
Right. So does that automatically equal a destroyed career, Amanda? Or have you seen that completely ends careers, or by them taking a proactive approach that now they have a board action, but they are able to continue practicing?
I would say what I typically see is when the board can take a restorative approach. So when they're putting things in, they're not just making them pay fees and penalizing them and putting restrictions on their license to make it a penalty and a consequence for them. But when they say, okay, we're going to have you set up these accountability measures. We want you to have a monitor. We want you to take these educational courses and tell us what you're going to change based on those and report back to us. And we're going to follow up with you and have you working with us under this suspension for 2 years so that we can make sure things are working. That's where you're really going to see change. And you're going to see that physician is able to be, hopefully, if they're following their plan, rehabilitated and kept in practice, which takes us full circle to that we're having shortages of physicians. When we have good providers who can make changes to stay in practice and still be safe providers, that helps everyone. It helps patients have more access to providers. It helps providers continue to practice and do what they love, but do it in a safe way. Because overall, patient safety is paramount. That's always the most important when we're looking at this. I want to add something really interesting. When you're looking at these board actions is don't get scared if you see a board action around the same time in 10, 15 states. So there's something, I don't know if you guys have talked about this on the podcast before, but called sister state actions. And so if someone's licensed in California and they get investigated, there's a board order that comes out in California. When they're licensed in New York and North Carolina and Alabama and Florida, they have to report it to those boards that there's been a discipline, something going on with their California license. And then all those boards tend to also take action.
Right. But how do we know which ones are sister states? And how do we know, is there a time frame requirement? Because what we're seeing is doctors are moving. And by the time there is that follow-up board action, it's been 2 years. So is it relevant anymore?
It's hard to tell, right? I think that's what's so important when it comes to the boards giving licenses to see, is there outstanding discipline?
Yeah, and each board does have a time that you have to report it. So like 30 days or, I think Emily even explained that to us, each board, it says, and then they're in trouble if they don't report it in that time. But I mean, it's very easy for a provider to get in trouble in one state. You pull a FSMB and you receive board orders from like 9 states and you're like, oh my goodness. But it's like, it all occurred in this one state. It didn't occur in the 9 states. So you have to, as an MSP, really be able to evaluate that documentation. Okay, so we have to talk about it. I understand, Amanda, you guys are about restoring the providers, honey, but we got to spill some tea. Okay, so let's talk about some real life scenarios. Okay, and you could say that ain't never happened, or yes, I have seen some of that, but I can't really talk about it. Okay. Okay, so, and these are just things that me and Nylene talk about all the time on the show. So it's like we've seen it from other providers. Okay, so we're just gonna spitball, throw them at you. Nylene, if you got some, throw them too. So what about if you found images on a doctor's computer? Like, not you found them, Amanda, but like, let's say an organization found them.
Not on the hospital computer, Shannon.
Remember the one that we seen? It was on the hospital computer.
Oh, right. Yes, that's right. That's right.
So what happens, Amanda? What would happen? Like, of course, they would be the board and but is that something that would fall into your category of courses?
Right. Or what are the questions? Right. And what are the questions that they ask?
That's where I immediately jump is I have about 500 questions going through my mind right now of it all depends on, was this reoccurring? Was it a one-time thing that there was an image? And
Well, you found 5,000 inappropriate images.
my assumption is that's going to the medical board, right? That's it depends. It's the nature of the images makes a big difference. Because that's really going to help us know, is this an ethical situation? Is this a behavioral situation? Is this a policy if you're using the wrong device? I would really think this is something where we need to dig deeper with what's going on. Why is this on this device? Why? And it depends on what type of image it is. Like what inappropriate image is.
Certain images kind of don't matter.
It's a different story, I would say. Is it an image of your wife that accidentally got airdropped to your other device or got transferred from a USB drive? I'm saying there's levels.
Or you just like to look at her every day at 2:00. I mean, it's your wife. Of course you are.
But then we need to have a conversation of, this isn't your device. This isn't, you don't own this device. That shouldn't be on this device. That's more of a policy, ethical
Look at your phone, not your
concern.
device.
Yeah. But is this a situation where we're sending inappropriate pictures of our body parts? Is that what's on here? Is it picture of our own body parts that we're sending to patients or other people on dating apps? That's a whole different situation.
And I bet you done seen some of those, Amanda, haven't you?
I can't speak to that.
Let's talk about something that happens all the time. And Lord knows, Tiger Woods just got arrested again. So we do got to talk about something that affects everybody, which is the DUI. And Shannon and I talked about a doctor out in California, one of our first episodes, where she got arrested and she survived. She did good. She did everything she was supposed to. And now she doesn't have any issues anymore. So doctor gets a DUI over the weekend. Monday morning, they have cases scheduled in the OR. What's the best? What should a doctor do? And how can something like PBI help the doctor proactively?
They really need to be communicating what's going on. Like, and my understanding would that would be part of the expectations, code of conduct, bylaws, potentially, that you have to notify us of these things. So that starts with an ethical concern of, are you telling the people who need to be told that this occurred? And I mean, you say California, something that we've seen traditionally, if someone gets a DUI, if a provider in California who's licensed by the medical board gets a DUI, they're going to a medical ethics course, a 2-day medical ethics course. It's standard, seen it for years. That's what they end up going to. But there's other things that doctor might need based on, was this a one-time occurrence? Do they have maybe situation with substance abuse going on where they need to get more help? Like what does that doctor need? And once again, we're digging into why this occurred. What caused this to happen?
So every situation is truly individualized.
Absolutely. And this is where resources like physician health programs really come into play and can be great resources for identifying and evaluating, is this doctor safe to practice right now? And that's something we're not doing formal fitness for duty evaluations at PBI. We're really helping once they are ready to move forward in their career.
Okay, Shannon, give us another, break it down. What else? What other scenarios can you think of?
So I was married and then I divorced his cheating self.
Okay.
And then he's in the hospital looking at my medical records, Amanda. I found out he's looking at my medical records. Is this something that would come to you? Is this a teachable course?
Absolutely, man. HIPAA violations, and it's really helps demonstrate that doctors know they can't look at records for patients they're not treating. Like all medical professionals know that. But when you enter a heated state and there's things going on in your life, you aren't thinking rationally. You're thinking, you're emotionally charged. You're like, oh, I want to see what's going on in here so I can see with my custody battle, how is there something, should she have a problem that I can use in my legal pursuits, right? Like there's a lot that could happen there. And they're expected to be a professional, even when they're interacting with their ex-spouse, even when, you can't do it. And so we would have someone like that. That's an ethical concern for us. Is
patients know that, like, a provider should not be in another provider's chart if they have not treated you. That's something that our patient audience should know. That's important.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you find it difficult because now we got to tell you, hey, doc, you're not supposed to be doing that. You find it difficult to speak to doctors when they're just like throw around, well, I'm a doctor and I know better and this and that. Do you find that a lot? The ego getting in the way?
Absolutely. It's something, especially if you're called out on behavior, you can be embarrassed, right? And when people are embarrassed, they really get defensive in situations and they start to put up walls. And so part of what our faculty do in the courses is really breaking down that resistance, talking through with them it all starts with, you're in a course. Our courses are all offered via Zoom. So they can see their other course participants. There's small courses. There's 12 people in this course. You're face to face with these other people. Everyone there has some kind of situation that occurred. So everyone's in the same boat.
So you're not one-on-one.
No. But it helps because hearing other people's stories helps you say, okay, I'm not alone. Other doctors make mistakes too. This is okay. I can find my way forward. And there's a lot that comes from that peer support aspect of interacting with them, learning from their mistakes and saying, wow, I didn't know that was a mistake I could make. Let me put that in my plan and put something down so I never do what they did. So that's really, it's an opportunity to interact with other people and to learn. We all make mistakes.
Do they sign confidentiality agreements that they won't talk about anybody else in there or anything?
Like, have you ever seen a doctor know somebody else in the course with them? Be like, hey, I didn't even know you were in here.
We try very hard to make sure that doesn't happen. Sometimes we find out about it before a course. And so we're able to say, hey, there's a potential this person's in the same specialty or this person works at the same hospital. Are you comfortable or would you like to be moved? But we're really proactive about that. Also with the faculty members, sometimes they know participants and it's not appropriate for them to teach someone that they might have a prior we call them dual relationships. We talk a lot about dual relationships in our boundaries course. So we really try to mitigate that. Or if you have someone, so say there's a situation where there's an ethical dilemma issue, there's cheating going on or something, and there's two providers in the same thing, or fraud. There's two providers both involved in the same fraud case. We don't want them necessarily in the same course if we can help it because we want them to be able to learn separately. And sometimes, say one of them was the really ringleader of it, we might not get the information we need out of both of them. So sometimes it can be really helpful to kind of have that anonymity. They just go by first name. There's no first and last name. People don't know necessarily what state they're from. But confidentiality is so important.
Should we talk about provider wellness resources? I know Amanda kind of touched on it. What are y'all thinking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't even know when I started credentialing and all of this, that all of this items were available to doctors. And Shannon, you had a couple listed here, things that have happened since COVID, organizations that have opened since COVID, particularly showing the burnout.
Yeah, the Lorna Breen Foundation. Do you work with them, Amanda, a lot?
We do, actually. We work closely with them. We've done some co-presentations in the past, and we're very supportive of their Suicide Prevention Day. I want to say it happens in September each year, and they're doing really amazing work, like getting resources out there, building awareness. I know we recently just signed one of the letters that's going to Congress to secure funding because the act was approved, but now there's funding that needs to also be approved by Congress. So that's something where we're supportive legislatively as well, to make sure those resources are getting where they need to for our physicians.
Because burnout is real. I mean, I think that's what we really could take from this conversation is the burnout is real, right, ladies?
And that's why we really need to encourage, as MSPs, we need to encourage them to get the help early and help guide the process. We have to inform ourselves that all of these things exist, all of these resources exist for our doctors, and we want to do it, again, like we mentioned earlier, proactively and not punitively.
Yeah, and if you really, you know your doctors, right? And so if you see a change, a life circumstance, a crisis has happened, something happens and the doctor shows up on Monday morning, oh, I'm ready. He might be the wounded warrior, like Amanda was saying, where he hasn't taken or she hasn't taken the time to take care of her or him first. They're just going to work, showing up to work to get it done, right? That's pretty much the definition, right, Amanda?
Yeah, and everyone else comes first. and they're coming in to help save everyone and take care of everyone else, but they themselves are wounded.
So that is pretty, it requires us to have good peer review, good ongoing performance evals, good and safe practices where they feel safe coming to us, and really having those wellness committees. It's hard, like in a small hospital where I'm at right now. It's hard, right? Because today for Doctors Day, I mean, we gave lunch to all of 5 doctors that were at the hospital, right? So we're very, very small. But at the larger facilities, you have the ability to have those wellness programs and really form a tight-knit community between all of these doctors. It's really good to get into that, and them being led by a physician that they have somebody to talk to and bring up these issues. And that the MSPs know, what do we have to do to get this doctor help when they get a DUI, when they get arrested, when something happens. They're humans too, like we've said a million times.
Yeah, I think right now, which I'm so glad that we were able to have Amanda on, because we really can show people that it's not people are out there sometimes being malicious, doing malicious things. It's that your providers are truly human. And they're having human experiences right along with you. And that's everybody from maybe the nurse that, held your arm a little too tight while they were taking blood, it's just anybody, the front desk person that kind of talked a little rude or something. And it's just a really important reminder, that we are all humans and we are all struggling at one point or another. And so as MSPs, try to look at the behavior and see if you could spot patterns like Amanda's been talking about. I mean, Amanda, do you have anything to say to our MSP community that can, really help them?
I would say that having that conversation, saying, hey, we've noticed something going on, or hey, having a conversation, or having the CMO have a conversation with them, say, hey, how are you doing? Asking how they're doing is really helpful, because you can get them the resources then. And we talk a lot about empathy and using that when we're speaking with the physicians, of saying, we want to figure out what's going on. We're not blaming you. We're not saying this is your fault. Let's get to the bottom of what caused this so we can move forward together. We're on the same team. We have the same goals to make sure we have safe patient care. Let's align our goals and move forward. So doing something like sending someone to a course, is really giving them support. It's not, medical boards use it for disciplinary action. It can look scary. You're helping them with something. And sometimes the providers pay for it. Sometimes organizations pay for the courses. And that can really differ based on what resources you have. But you want to give them an opportunity to succeed. That's really the goal.
And really, it just seems like hospitals really need to kind of build support systems, and not just around their doctors, but around anybody that's in their hospital, touching patients, because healthcare just can really be a traumatizing field to be in, right? I mean, you're dealing with life, death, emergencies, amputated limbs. I mean, right, Nylene? There's a lot of stuff going on in hospitals. And I don't mean to laugh. I just, laugh when I'm uncomfortable.
No, yes, no, but we want to also bring awareness to this amazing support system and resource that the boards have to show. We really want to help doctors, and yes, we love talking about the tea and the scandal and all the things. But the reality is, we want to make sure that we as MSPs and patients know that there's all these resources that we're doing to keep our doctors helping us, because we need as many doctors as we can. Every single state is facing many
provider shortages.
Yeah, and we all need the help that we can find, right?
Well, I was going to say, how amazing would it be? This is for my patient PSA, Nylene. If Amanda or PBI got a call that says, "Oh, I was referred to PBI by a patient that I saw." That would be incredible, though, right? Like, maybe you need a PBI course, doctor. You seem a little stressed out.
If you knew how many appointments I was in where I was like, man, can I give them a free course?
So what is our key takeaway? What's our true closing message?
I think the big takeaway message for everyone is restorative over punitive. That when you're trying to deal with conduct, behavior, things that aren't acceptable, if we can give people a way forward and not just put consequences on them, we're going to have a better outcome for everyone. We're going to have safer patient care. We're going to have happier, safer providers, and the organization overall is going to be in a better position.
And more transparency, Amanda, right? Because if people feel like they can mess up, and we all understand it's not amazing to mess up, but again, we're all humans and we do mess up. And so it feels better that if you mess up and your system has some way that you can disclose, you can move through it, and you can come out on the other end of it amazing. Then that's what we're really looking for as organizations to have that, right, Amanda?
Absolutely.
Right. So then the best medical staff offices don't just credential the doctors. They actually protect them and they protect the patients, like we always say.
And that's what matters. It all comes down to the patient.
Absolutely. So we're going to link the resources, right, to PBI on our show notes for today.
And then if hospitals or doctors need to contact you, CMOs need to contact you, how would they contact PBI?
They're more than welcome to go to our website. They can also email me. It's Amanda@PBIeducation.com. Reach out to me. Let me know. Find us on LinkedIn. We're really here to help and make sure you have the resources you need.
Make sure you say that you heard about it on Credentialing Chronicles. All right. Stay credentialed, not what, Nylene?
Not canceled.
All right. Until next time, we'll see you soon.
That was a whole nation's worth of tea, girl.
Ooh, and we are just getting started. More states, more scandals, and definitely more receipts.
And if you love the tea we're spilling, you gotta like, you gotta comment, follow us, share, do everything. Where can they do all that at, Nylene?
They can follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, on all the things. And share it because the tea is going coast to coast.
Ooh, I love it. See you next time on Credentialing Chronicles. Remember, you got to stay credentialed, but not what?
Not canceled.